Welcome to episode 2, Love Never Dies, featuring unstoppable senior Elaine Brown, returning guest Bob Hutchinson, and surprise guest Avante Bailey. And here's your host, Charlotte Sistrun.
Hello, and thank you for meeting us at the cafe. And us, that's you and me. That's us, capital U, capital S. It is us, unstoppable seniors. You see that U and that S? We're unsung survivors, and we have the uniquely spectacular stories to share. Our featured guest is Elaine Brown. And does she have a conversation to share with us? What do you do? Or how do you handle when a child leaves before you? Elaine has experienced that with dignity, so much so that it inspires me. But before we get into the deep subject, we always start with knowing how people got, how us, the unstoppable seniors. Certainly, it took a lot of milestones to get us here. Elaine, welcome.
Thank you.
Bob, welcome.
Thank you.
And we're going to get right into our story. Elaine, what were some of the milestones in your life that got you to where you are?
Well, just as a background, I've been married. It'll be 60 years in November. We have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. And basically, I've been in very good health. I had my parents with me. They passed when they were in their 90s. My dad was 97. My mother was 92. And I had that reality that I was an orphan in my 70s. And I thought, in a way, you know what? That's a blessing, because so many of my friends had lost their parents so much earlier, and that I was blessed to have wonderful parents up until that point.
Let's talk about your childhood. What happened in your childhood? Do you remember any pivotal moments that helped shape your philosophy?
Yes. My parents were very loving Christian people. My father was a deacon, and my mother was a housekeeper, mainly for Irish families. And these families are the families that I kind of grew up with, because as I got to be in my teens, I actually babysat for the Donovan kids. And they used to fight over who I was going to sleep with at night, because they thought I was such a special person. My mother, the Donovans, their grandmother had died so young that my mom became like their grandmom. And when Mrs. Donovan passed away, my mother was in the family funeral car as their grandmom. So that just shows you that the kind of love that they had. And my mother was such a loving person that she had a saying: if you broke something, even my children, if they broke a dish or whatever, my mother always said, it's only a material thing. It's the love and the giving that was important. And I grew up in that kind of household with my 2 brothers. I had a brother older and a brother younger than me. A lot of people thought I was the only child, I guess because I was the only girl, and my parents really kind of, babied me. Yeah, to show you how spoiled I was, when I got married, I could only cook hot dogs and eggs. That was the only thing I could cook. And I kept saying to my mom, who was a wonderful cook, well, Mom, how come you're not teaching me to cook? And she would say, you'll learn and you'll be cooking for the rest of your life. So fortunately, I married a man who could cook. So we survived.
Beautiful. So you're talking about this man that you married. What is his name, and how long ago did you marry him? How did you meet?
Okay, my husband's name is Reese. He's Reese Jennings Brown, Jr. And we met when we were 12 years old at Morgan State College. We went to United Methodist Youth Fellowship Conference. And I saw him walking across the campus, and he had on a little button-down plaid shirt, and he just looked so neat and everything. And I thought, boy, that's a cute little fat boy walking across the campus. And we connected, and I wasn't that much interested in him until we were like 16 or so. And I found that whatever I wanted to do, he would do it, whether he wanted to or not. For instance, I loved to roller skate, and he hated it, but he went roller skating with me all the time. And sooner than that, I got bored because I could get him to do anything I wanted. And then at 19, I met him again when he was at Temple, and boy, I fell in love with him then. He was
Oh my goodness. Well, it sounds like you had your eyes on him from the time you were 12, because you remember how old you both were at that time. Right. What a beautiful love story. Now, how did he realize that you really fell in love with him, or how did that happen?
Actually, he never stopped caring, and I did. In fact, when I broke up with him when we were kids, and I think I was maybe around 16 when I said to him, I don't want to be your girlfriend anymore. So what he did, he walked home and he wore a coat, if anybody can remember, called a 6-button Benny, which was a really nice camel hair coat. And he was so heartbroken that he walked home without his coat on. He carried it home, and he told his mother that he was never going to eat again. And she said, "Oh, yes, you are." And she got him straightened out. But when I met him again at 19, he still cared. He still was in love with me. And that's when I kind of said, whoa, this looks like, I fell in love with him at that time.
I noticed that you have several photos in your background, and they look like family portraits. So let's move up to where your family started, how it started, and talk a little bit about your children.
Okay, well, I have 3 sons and a daughter. Now, a lot of people will say I had 3 sons and a daughter, but I still want to say I have 3 sons and a daughter, even though my one son has passed. My oldest son was 58. I have another son that's going to be 58 this year. They're actually 16 months apart.
Oh, my.
I have a son that's 50, and then my daughter is 44. And two of my sons are college professors, and one son is actually a United Methodist minister, and my daughter is an environmental engineer.
I can hear the proudness in your voice.
Yes.
Let's get to the topic. What happened?
Okay. Well, my oldest son, Reese Jennings Brown III. I also have a grandson that's the 4th. And so,
oh my goodness!
It's like a dynasty. But my oldest son, he had asthma most of his adult life, but it was always very manageable. He actually would, a couple times he had to go in maybe for treatment or whatever, but he kept his inhaler in the car, and we never had a real problem. But on the 22nd of January, he was waiting for his aunt to come out of the dentist's office, and he started having trouble breathing. Now, my son Reese was the kind of person that was so dependable that he probably thought, well, I'll use my inhaler, and I'll wait for her to come out, and then I'll go on for a treatment at the hospital. But by the time my sister-in-law came out, he was holding on to the outside of the car, and he told her, he said, "I'm having trouble breathing." And just to interject, when I hear about where we are now, and I hear the words, "I can't breathe," I think so much about my son. So my sister-in-law had an ambulance come immediately to take him to Jefferson Hospital. But when they put him in the ambulance, he actually started to have a seizure. And I had never seen anybody have a seizure, so I couldn't even imagine what that was. But they took him to the hospital, and by the time they got him there, he was not conscious and he could not communicate. So, of course, we got a phone call and we went down to the hospital. And when we were there with my daughter-in-law, when 4 doctors came in, I knew something was really wrong. I figured if it was something just a normal treatment, they would have come in that way. But they said he was dangerously critical. And at that moment, I just prayed as hard as I could, Lord, please spare my son. And in fact, I had a friend who lost her son about a few months before that. And I remember thinking, God, you have been so good to me. You have all my children healthy and functional. And then this happened. So from that day, the 24th of January, 22nd of January, he passed on the 24th.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. I'm telling you, it's going. The story is going through me. So that was January 19th of this year. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is the coronavirus year. I know that you and I have talked previously. How did the COVID affect what went on with you?
Well, actually, in a way, as I look back, my son died in January. We had the funeral on February 7th, and that was before the coronavirus had really taken hold in the United States. So after thinking about it, I was thankful that I was able to hold my son's hand for 2 whole days and talk to him, because I do believe that the last sense to go is the sense of hearing. And he knew, I told him over and over again how much we loved him and what a wonderful, wonderful son and father he was. So that then for the funeral, I don't think I've ever seen such an outpouring of love at our church. For the first time, we had people standing in line all the way out to the sidewalk to come in to sign the registration book to come to the service. And I know if it had been during this COVID-19 session, that we wouldn't have been able to do that. And I was thankful to see all the people that loved him so much. And I said, God does everything in his own good time. And it was my son's time, but God made it so that we could have a proper goodbye. And I feel so sorry for the people right now who cannot say goodbye properly to their loved ones.
Oh my, Elaine. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how to follow up with your profound perception. I understand you wrote something, and if you would share it with our audience, yes, so they can hear, and I'm sure they will be inspired. In as loud a voice as you can muster up, Elaine, please share that with our audience. Just please share.
Okay. I'll never forget the strange and sad feeling that came over me as I helped my daughter-in-law choose the burial clothes for my son, Reese III. As I chose his vest, shirt, tie, trousers, and jacket, I thought of how he always looked so dapper, so pulled together. I would often tell him that he looked as if he just stepped off the cover of GQ. My mind raced back to my 58 plus years ago when I carefully picked out his first outfit, a blue and white piece romper that my husband and I would bring him home from the Naval Hospital in. He was our firstborn, and I was so afraid that I would break his tiny arms or legs as I struggled to dress him. Leaving the safe environment of the hospital and going out into the world, my thoughts were, you now have the responsibility to keep this tiny human being alive. And I thought, whew, what a responsibility. I dressed my son as he came into the world, and now choosing his clothing as he was leaving this earth. Each day I ask God to help me to be able to put just one foot in front of the other, to be thankful for the wonderful and loving son, husband, and father that he was, and for all the happiness that he gave to so many. With God's help and our faith, my husband and I continue to hold each other and know that we will see our beloved son again. Love never dies.
Thank you, Elaine. I need a moment.
I do too.
I need a moment.
That was just beautiful. It really was.
Bob, please take over while we compose ourselves and
Well, I think Elaine, you've shown so much faith and strength, and from years, from the background that you have and the upbringing that you had, and when you transferred that upbringing to the way you brought your children up, it all builds. Your parents were rock solid, and that made you and your husband rock solid.
Yes.
And what you just read was something that should be read by everybody. It was just beautiful. It really was. And when you think of losing a child, it's the most unnatural thing in the world, no matter how old the child is. When we think of losing a child, we think of losing a child much younger, generally. And but it doesn't matter, because I have 3 daughters, and one of my daughters has just gone through a dreadful illness, and she's, thank goodness, doing better. But the thought of losing her was something that was paramount in our minds for several months, and it's just horrendous. And I don't know how you feel, but the feeling that we had during this period with my daughter was something that was closely akin to what could have been what you felt. And the strength that you show and the faith that you show is just an inspiration to everybody. And I salute you for that. And I'm so happy that I got to hear what you said, and I got to hear what you read, and just to be a part of this, it just makes me proud to be a part of this whole situation, because I would never have heard this had I not been a part of this group. And it was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. We're going to shift gears now, and we're going to talk about life as it exists now, because Elaine, you certainly did not stop living.
True.
I asked you to send me some artwork and some of the things that you're doing now, and I'm telling you, I might have to buy more storage on my computer, because you sent me like 253 different photos of artwork and quilts that you did. But before we talk about that, I want to bring a surprise guest into the room, because when he heard you were going to be featured, he said, I would like to be in on the conversation. So now, without further ado, can we see the surprise guest who will join us?
Mrs. Brown.
Yes.
Hey, what's going on? Wow. It's really great to see you in such good spirits. And I just want to start off with a note that I admire your strength, you and my Aunt Charlotte. You know, I know my Aunt Charlotte's story, and after hearing how you dealt with your son's passing, I want to say rest in power to him. And, you know, you saying that you had to carry that life and, you know, raise him in this world, you kind of seem to have anxiety about that at first, but the Lord carried you and gave you the strength to carry on. And he's helping you carry on now, even after the event that the Lord called him. And it reminded me of my mother, you know, when she first had me. My Aunt Charlotte can attest to this. You know, she didn't want anybody to, but yeah, it's great to hear from you, Mrs. Brown, and it's great to see you, Aunt Charlotte. And it's great to meet you, Bob. You know, it's definitely great to meet you.
Nice to meet
how
you.
well spoken you are, and I heard about your background.
Why is it so important, Bob, to keep physically fit? Oh, by the way, for those of you who don't know or didn't know, Bob was a weightlifter, and so being, he had to know fitness and diet, nutrition, and all of that inside and out, because he was pretty doggone good at it. And then he and I met because he was conducting workshops at American Family Fitness on a weekly basis and instructing the seniors how to stay fit. So that was our original connection, and now we're zooming all over the world. Bob, what advice do you have to seniors to keep active in the coronavirus and beyond?
Well, basically, to get down to the bare basics, just keep moving. You just got to keep moving. That's the basic tenet. If you keep moving, walking, even if it's walking up and down your steps 3 or 4 times a day during the virus situation, and you can't get out if it's raining or whatever, keep moving in your house. Just keep your leg. One of the basic fundamentals of exercise is walking, because it activates the heart, it activates every part of the body, because the legs are the largest part of the body, and your heart has to pump to feed blood and oxygen to the legs, and that activates the whole metabolic process. So if you can't do anything else, do some walking. That's the main thing as far as I'm concerned for anybody of advanced age, because walking is basic. And if you do any studies on people who are octogenarians or older, I don't know what nonogenarians, I guess, you'll find that the people who live the longest are the people who walk the most. And
so Bob, would you say that we septuagenarians are the babies in the group?
I'd say we're the less.
With the what? Because you started with the octogenarians, but go ahead. I'm flattered.
There you go. We have a little ways to go.
Oh, but look, I'll drink to that. Elaine, you got your cup?
Yeah, I'm an octogenarian, and I'll drink to that.
All right, I love it, and we salute you, Elaine.
But according to the scientists, age is no longer a factor. The number of years is no longer a factor with age. It's basically arm and leg strength.
Whoa!
If your arms and legs are strong, then that can take 10 years off of your chronological age. So that's why resistance exercise, resistance bands, walking, light dumbbells, power walking with light dumbbells in your hand and swinging them around, that's great for you. You just have to maintain a consistency, and every now and then try to do a little bit more than you did the day before, so that you can increase your capacity. That's what I tell the older people that I train with.
What advice do you give to Avante as he is building his own fitness career and routines for seniors and all ages? What advice would you give to someone such as Avante still in his 20s?
The younger people like Avante, I tell them to say their prayers, take their vitamins, and stay away from steroids. I would say don't pay attention to the latest fads in the magazines, because the magazines are like 24-hour news. They have to come up with something to fill the pages. And a lot of the things that they come up with are not tried and proven. And your basic exercises, they did a study at Springfield College that if you don't need to do any more than 3 sets of one exercise to get results. If you want to keep working that body part, change exercises and do 3 sets. But any more than 3 sets tears down the muscle tissue. Things like that, just your basics. And it looks like Avante's got a pretty good foundation right now.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, he does. He's a hard worker, too.
And no wonder he's got on a shirt like that. I don't blame him. I just wonder if he's got a license for those guns.
Watch out, Avante. He's got a sense of humor, too. So,
can I just say, look, by being in Avante's class, he gives us an interval, like we may be doing something for a certain number of, like, say, a minute. and then he gives us maybe a half a minute to slow down. And it really,
Right.
he really does pace it very well for the seniors.
That's
Real
excellent.
fast.
And he believes in body up and cool down. Is that correct,
That's it.
Avante? And to uncover you. And he has an
100%.
online. You can give yourself a little plug there, Avante. Where can they find you online?
My site is abmbworkouts.com. And to speak on the body up, cool down narrative you just put out there, I have a series that is actually named the Body Up, Cool Down series. It puts emphasis on the exercising aspect, of course, you know, getting your heart rate up, getting those muscles involved. With the resistance training that Bob spoke of, I also have balanced aerobics on there. And then it has an element of cooling down. And, you know, make sure you relax, those muscles regrouped, control the breathing, and just, you know, make sure it's a good harmonious balance. Just like that's how life goes, you know, even when you're up and moving, you got to make sure you balance it out and make time for yourself to sit back and reflect and cool down and relax.
Excellent
So, yeah,
point.
that's the best way to reach me.
Welcome to the Uncover You Senior Circuit. Let's get ready to enhance our balance, burn body fat, and also enhance muscle tone. Start with the Moon Man Walk. All right, so keep following along with Miss Elaine as I guide you along the way.
What Avante is doing is taking the basic tenets of, as I spoke, walking, like you're
Right.
walking outdoors, you're going up and down a hill, you go up a hill, it's a little bit more intense. You go down a hill, it's a little bit easier. What he's doing is excellent. I applaud your technique.
I appreciate that.
Bob, you know, we're winding down. And it would not be the same. Avante, please don't laugh too hard, okay? Or too loud, okay? Please.
Can't promise it. I'll try.
You try not to laugh because Bob tells jokes. Can you put a little cheer in our cup, Bob, as we wind down this conversation?
What did one hat say to the other?
What did one hat say to another?
Yes.
What did one hat say to another? Let me think on that a minute. I have no idea, Bob. What did the hat say? What do you think, Elaine, the hat said to the other?
I'm ahead of you?
I'm going to hug you?
No, I'm ahead of you.
I'm ahead of you.
Yeah.
Now, what did one hat say to the other? You wait here, I'll go on ahead. Sorry about that.
As we close this out, Bob, thank you so much for adding the stability to the very serious subjects, and you know it's going to keep it real.
Well, thank you, and Avante.
Thank you, Avante.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you. God bless.
You take care, buddy.
You too.
Elaine, you hang in there, girl.
I will.
You're an inspiration. You really are.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
What a fantastic conversation. Namaste. Thank you. Until next time.
That's a wrap. For more information, contact us at www.meetastudio.com.